Right, now start with a really big bowl, because the bigger the bowl, the less risk there is of stuff slopping around everywhere. So even if you're making a small portion, use a big bowl. The first thing you do is you take about 50 grams of yeast and just stir it up, refine it as much as you can. It'll be easier to stir. And then put in some water. So I'm going to use about 750 mils. That's about 3/4 of a quart, a pint and a half, however you want to say. And then I've got a really good whisk that I got from St. Vincent de Paul in the Blue Mountains about 10 years ago. And just stir that around. And when you've done that, you're ready for the flour. Always start with a bit of flour first. Doesn't matter what it says in the recipe. Some recipes will want you to mix in oil and all sorts of crud onto the yeast, but yeast doesn't like that. Yeast likes flour. So make yourself a gruel out of the flour. Don't worry about how much. The bread will tell you when it's had enough. Right, now the yeast has something to hang on to. When you've done that, you can put in some salt. And let's say for every 1/4 of a litre, you put in about a teaspoon of salt. For every 1/4 of a litre of liquid that you're using. Stir that up. Just give that a bit of a whisk. And then you can start being creative. I might chuck in an egg or two. There we go. And just beat the crap out of this. There we go. And I've also got some oats. But before I put the oats in, I've actually made some shredded carrot. The good thing about shredded carrot is that it's healthy and it gives the bread a bit of sweetness. So it has really two purposes. It makes the bread taste good, and if you're the sort of person that worries about eating too much wheat, then you're really going to be good with the carrots, because carrots are supposed to be healthy for you. Then I'm going to chuck in some oats. Again, doesn't really matter how much. I use a couple of cups, I think. Stir that around. And now all I have to do is put in as much flour as it'll take. Bung in some flour. Don't do too much at once, because it'll just lump up and be really annoying to stir out. Right, put some more flour in. I really had no idea how much. I think I'm around 1 kilo now. So I'm just going to chuck some more in. Always a little bit at a time, because, as I say, you don't want to get it all lumpy. At the same time, you want to make sure you haven't used too much flour. Now, sooner or later, using a ladle for this is not going to be very comfortable, and then you're just going to have to use your hands. Now, a little more flour, and then basically you just turn it around in there fold it about a bit. Don't do this because it just makes the bread leaven in a really odd and useless way. So try to just turn the dough. See how it's turning? Just keep doing that with it. See? Now it's starting to look like a lump of dough. And basically it's done when you haven't got a lot of dough on your hands. You'll always have a bit, but you can tell it's not flattening out anymore. At the same time it feels moist. So that's about it. Right, about an hour and it'll have risen. Don't forget to cover it up while it's rising. I just use this old lid. Right, so now it's risen. So now we cut it up into handy bits. This looks like a handy bit. Put some oil on your hands. Not too much, you don't want it sliding all over the place. Make a sausage type thing and then just take chunks like this, about the size of a child's fist. Doesn't really matter, some people like it large, some people like it small. So, there we go. And just smear that over there. And then we roll them into nice little rolls. Now, they're not supposed to be 100% circular because once they're in the oven, they're going to rise again anyway. And they'll find their own shape. I don't usually count them, so we'll just have to see how many there are at the end. And now we've got a tin full. Just organise them a bit so that they don't get confused. There we go. About right. Hop, not too many. There we go. 16 bread rolls, and I've got at least another 16, maybe even 25 left. So they go away now. We'll just put a clean tea towel on top of them, and we'll leave them to rise another half an hour or so. Right. I promised my kids that they were going to get hamburgers for dinner, so a couple of these I'm going to make a little flat so that they will then be our hamburger buns. I'm putting the oil on because it's doesn't make it stick to my fingers, but also because it makes them nice and brown. So, hamburgers tonight. Then switch on your oven and set it at 200 degrees. When the oven's hot, put them in the oven, and after 20 minutes, there you go. That's hot. Take them out of the oven, and Bob's your uncle.